Hello, my name is Luigerous, and welcome to the second episode of Luigerous Tidbits. And today we'll be looking at Armored Warfare's new developers question and answer blog 12. And I think here was a couple of very interesting things that you might be interested if you haven't been reading these developers' Q&A posts. And one of the questions were questioning the fact that it's very brutal sometimes in PvE if you are in medium or hard difficulty and you are at the bottom tier. Let's say you are in a tier 5 vehicle and you have up to tier 7 vehicles on your team, so you can pretty easily meet tier 9 AI vehicles. So if you are in a tier 5, well, any tank pretty much except maybe self-propelled gun, and you face up a tier 9 main battle tank, there's very limited amount of stuff you can actually do, especially since shooting off the tracks is quite a challenge in this game in comparison to World of Tanks, I feel. And what they said that they will be looking into it. So the question pretty much was that could they change it to so that the difference would be only one tier. So if you're a tier 5 vehicle, you can only play with tier 4 and 6 vehicles on your team, so you wouldn't ever meet 2 brutal vehicles. So the devs pretty much said that we will be looking into statistics, yada 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 yada, but they kinda, thought about it, I guess, so that'll be something interesting. The second thing that was asked, that is so-called tanking or tanking for damage going to be a thing in Armored Warfare, mostly for main battle tanks because they have the most amount of armor. If they bounce, if they take shots or take hits and try to bounce them, will that be rewarded? And they pretty much said that they've been thinking about it, and it might be making into the game at some point, but because if that is going to come into the game, they will have to have some kind of nerf to something, because it would pretty much mean that, well, main battle tanks would just make more credits, even though if they wouldn't try to tank for the team, they would still get more credits. They would still get more credits and XP regardless. So that's a tricky thing, and that is something that I think rewards being AFK and suicide rushing and stuff like that. So I don't know. It's logical if you do it correctly, because the main battle tanks are the people who should be taking the hits, and they won't get rewarded for it as of now. So it's a little bit double-edged sword in my opinion. Now another thing, what a lot of people have most likely experienced firsthand is that in hard PvE battles, and in my experience also in medium difficulty battles, that people are running out of ammunition. So are they going to do something about that? And again, they're kind of like, well, we're looking at the situation, and they've actually had a close look at some particular vehicles. It doesn't say which ones, that these vehicles run regularly out of ammunition in games, and they might buff that up. But of course, you do have in PvE games the ability to load out the consumable that refills all your ammunition, but it costs a ridiculous amount of credits. But assuming the credits buff that will be coming in the 0.13 patch kinda can fix that, because as of now it costs like 12,000 credits, so it kinda takes a huge proportion of your potential income away if you use that consumable item, and it will pretty much never be beneficial. I mean, yeah, you can refill your ammunition, but you will probably still lose money even if you shoot most of your ammo and score penetrating hits. So yeah, but as they are introducing the new income thing, it will be pretty much fixed in that, I feel. Now there have been a lot of talk about, light tanks being quite a big underdog about all of the classes. They really do not have a lot of speciality on them. And the developers have been taking this into account and are thinking about giving it a new class ability that would be more appealing and better. And they do not want to just flat out buff the light tanks. So I think that is a clever thing to do. I don't know what could they possibly do to the light tanks to make their class ability better, but yeah, I feel like if you just go and buff every single tank, next patch or patch after that, they will just nerf them again, and it's just frustrating for everyone. One question is that could they somehow show the so-called hidden information that is not displayed about the vehicles in the garage? For example, the traverse rate and the bloom when you turn your turret around and so on. And what they're saying is that they're considering adding the rest. If you happen to be a developer and you happen to be watching this video, what I feel like would be pretty easy solution would be that you have the basic stats that you pretty much have now, and then there would be like an advanced button so that you could fill up like half of the screen with all sorts of statistics that, statistic nuts can just, geek around them if they want. And if you don't understand a word what that big old shit says, then you can just, view the regular one that is in the game right now. But it would be absolutely fantastic to see a lot of these hidden statistics. And I think one of the biggest things that I was surprised to hear is that are they going to implement like quote-unquote tank inspector program into the game? And the answer is surprisingly yes, this is something we plan to add. This is a lot of work to implement, but we do want to get this in the game. And I feel like that is fantastic. Now War Thunder has done this, and I feel like that is a very, very, very neat feature. And it's a little bit of a chore that you have to count on third-party software in World of Tanks. And so it's just a lot easier if you have it, in game, if you have it already built in the game. Of course, this will be a lot work for the developers, and it will probably not be implemented into the game anytime soon. But for me, it's a huge thumbs up, and I feel like a lot of people will appreciate it, so that we can actually see how detailed are the vehicles, and we can more understand how or why some vehicles work so well as they do, or maybe why some vehicles don't function as well as you would think. Next we have, are they planning to extend the PvE role-playing feel of the game? And yes, they are planning to do that. And they're trying to get their actually some kind of storyline and some campaign missions, a lot of background information about these factions that you're dealing with. And the biggest thing that they're thinking about doing is the loot drops that was mentioned before as well, so that maybe the boss vehicles in PvE would drop some loot or something that could have boosts and unique camouflages, consumables, credits, stuff like that. I'm all over that. That is fantastic. I feel like that is something that really makes you feel like that when you see that boss in there. I don't know if that means like a big boss, which they were at some point mentioning, that maybe they have a campaign, and after the campaign they have a big boss that can drop some loot. But what I feel like would be that very, very, very nice that you already can see these yellow, like a mini boss vehicles in PvE games that have like ridiculous amount of hit points in comparison to their comrades. They feel like now that, oh, I have to take that guy out, but I need some help, and I just more rather shoot those squishy targets. Now, if there's a chance to drop some loot, people will be like, oh, there's some juicy ass over there, I'm gonna deal with that. So that would be incredibly good thing to add in my book. And then we have a question about the AI artillery behavior, and will it be fixed? And the answer is like, yeah, no, maybe, I don't know. It's kind of working as it should, and so far maybe we'll tweak it, and they will have to tweak it for every single map individually. I can say already, it's not working as intended. At least not in all of the maps. In some maps it does work, as they are saying that they will try to shoot someone, but if you go out of line of sight, they will try to track down someone else to shoot at. It works on some maps, I feel. But there are some maps that they will not change the target ever until the player is dead that they wanna kill. It is something that is cheating. Why I say it's cheating? Well, if you go behind a building and you haven't seen an enemy for a couple of minutes, and you haven't been spotted for a couple of minutes, the second you get spotted, you will be shot to oblivion by every single artillery in the enemy team. Developers probably are, kind of saying that we're fixing these maps where they do not work. Because the AI knows where you are, even though they don't know where you are. A lot of the times when I'm in an armored fighting vehicle and I know where the enemy is, before I shoot them, they turn the turret to face me. And they'll just look at me. They won't shoot because, they can't see me. But they know I'm there. They know I'm there. And then I change my position and the turret just follows. I've not been spotted, and the minute I get spotted, they shoot. The AI cheats, and it's kinda, I think, hard to fool the AI that, the player is there, but, you're not supposed to know. And maybe they can go over that somehow at some point, but yeah, it's still a work in progress. But the artillery is something that I feel like they really, 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 really need to take a long look. Because in some cases they work, but in a lot of cases it just does not work as intended. And a very, very insightful question was that how does pretty much the cage armor work against heat shells? That, how good protection does it give you? And the answer is that the shell is completely negated. That is amazing! I didn't know that. So, yeah, cage armor working very effectively against heat shells. And then we have a question about tank commanders that you can unlock. Will the new trees have new commanders? And yes, they will have new commanders, so you will eventually have quite a big roster of commanders, and they will try to have in every single commander to be quite a unique flavor. I don't know how they're exactly planning to do this, but if I remember correctly, they were planning to have the commanders be more in depth, because at the moment they have only 5 skills, but the XP still goes up quite drastically. It's like a smidgen of XP that you need to reach the tier 5 skills, but you can still have a ridiculous amount of extra XP. So that'll be probably the future. That will probably unlock something in the future. We'll have to see. And the last thing that I'll be covering is that will they ever be filling empty slots in PvP games with bot players, like AI-controlled opponents. And that is something that they have been thinking about, but haven't been actually done with the idea anything as of yet, at least. And that is something that is also a double-edged sword, in my opinion, because the AI isn't very good at the moment. It's okay, I guess, because the PvE games are very scripted. At the end of the day, they are pretty much scripted. There are waves, and it's like the AI spawns here, and it tries to get there, and it will shoot you on the way if it sees you. Now in PvP, let's say they give you 2 AIs per team. It's gonna be pretty hard, because if you just would put the AI that is right now in the game in a PvP, it'll be thinking like, oh, there's a capture circle, I need to go cap that, and they will just die in the first minute of the game, because they'll be driving in the open and so forth, and they will be just obliterated. Maybe they could go with this on more like War Thunder approach, so that there are players, but there are like a lot of AI players, and the AI in War Thunder Ground Forces is pretty brain dead as well. But the maps are also a lot bigger and so on. I feel like, sometimes you do get in very brutal matches in PvP when there's a very few amount of players in the queue. So if they would have bots taking slots, that would help a lot. Maybe if they would have like a tier difference of only 1, so that you're in a tier 4 vehicle, for instance, you could only meet tier 5s and 3s. So it will have the effect that you would have a lot harder time finding a match, because there is so much shorter range of people that can participate in that match. But if they would have bots, that wouldn't be so much of a problem, but they are bots. So it's kind of what you prefer, I feel like. And personally, well, I do generally just play PvE, occasionally PvP, but I would probably keep the bots in PvE game mode. Maybe if you put like only tier 1s could meet only tier 1s, and tier 2s could only meet tier 2s, so that the early tiers would be like for the new players, and so that they would meet just like tier 5 tanks that would be like, so what's up, bitch? So that they'd have a little bit easier time and not too brutal matches, because I feel like a lot of people will be scared off if they just get obliterated in their first couple of matches that they play, and they're like, why would I play something like this, if they meet overwhelming odds for the first couple of games, they're probably not gonna play again. So maybe adding bots to like tier 1 to maybe 3 battles wouldn't be so bad of idea, but it would have to mean that they can't meet higher tier opponents, like maybe at all. But anyways, those were just some thoughts that came into my head right at this moment, so take this as you will. Now that was the Q&A 12 on Armored Warfare. I hope you have enjoyed the Luigerous Tidbits number 2. I do read all of these Q&As and news and stuff like that. Regardless, it's not too big of a thing for me to make these videos, so I would very much like to hear how you feel about them. If they are shite, I would like to know if they're shite, so I will make more of them. But if they're, nice, and you don't have time or interest on reading all this stuff, and you prefer just, to hear maybe the juicy bits, because I try to pick the juicy bits. If I would go on with every single question and stuff like that, what is in these blogs, these videos would be 4 times longer and they would be dry as a desert. So yeah, but I hope you enjoyed this one. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope I'll see you in the next video.
Thanks, Black Company. You have no idea how important it is to stop the Alliance.